The Novan colony on Taralis 4 had been under attack for 17 days. Commander Ji-Ho Park stood by the large window in the command center. His tired eyes looked at the stars above. Somewhere up there, the enemy ships waited. They were called the Krivax Dominion, and they had surrounded the colony with their fleet. Ji-Ho ran his hand through his short black hair. He had not slept well since the attack began. The first day had been the worst. The Krivax had destroyed their main communication tower right away. Now they could not call for help. "Commander Park," a voice called from behind him. Ji-Ho turned to see Major Hanul Kim walking toward him. Hanul was his second in command. She was shorter than Ji-Ho, but her presence always filled the room. Her dark uniform looked neat despite the chaos of the past weeks. "What's the status of our shields?" Ji-Ho asked. Hanul's face was serious. "Not good. The main shield generator is working too hard. Engineer Choi says we have 3 days at most before it fails." Ji-Ho nodded slowly. He had expected this news, but it still felt like a weight on his chest. "And our people?" "Scared, but holding together. We have 15,000 colonists. Most are in the shelters now." Ji-Ho walked to the central table where a map of the colony glowed blue. The Novan colony had not been built for war. It was a research station. The people here were scientists and their families, not soldiers. They had come to study the strange crystal formations that covered much of Taralis 4. These crystals held energy properties that could change space travel forever, if the research could be finished. Now that research might never be completed. "Have we heard anything from Alliance Command?" Ji-Ho asked, though he already knew the answer. Hanul shook her head. "Nothing. We've sent signals on all frequencies, but the Alliance fleet is 3 sectors away. Even if they got our message..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. No one would reach them in time. Ji-Ho touched the display, zooming out to show the space around their planet. Red dots marked the positions of the Krivax ships. There were so many. Too many. The Krivax had appeared 17 days ago without warning. Their commander had sent one message: surrender the planet and its resources or be destroyed. Ji-Ho had refused. The Krivax had started bombing the outer buildings of the colony that same day. "Sir," Hanul said quietly, "some of the council members are suggesting we should consider the Krivax terms." Ji-Ho's jaw tightened. "You mean surrender?" "They say it would save lives." "And then what?" Ji-Ho asked. "The Krivax don't take prisoners, Major. You know their reputation. They take what they want and leave nothing behind." Hanul nodded. She knew this was true. The Krivax Dominion had been expanding for years, taking over smaller worlds at the edge of known space. They stripped planets of resources and used people as slave labor until nothing remained. The door to the command center opened and Dr. Yoonji Choi walked in. Yoonji was the colony's chief engineer. Her hands were dirty and her face showed signs of too little sleep. "Commander, I finished checking the shield generator," she said. "I might be able to squeeze another day out of it, but that's all." 4 days instead of 3, Ji-Ho said. "Better than nothing." Yoonji looked at the map. "What's the plan, sir?" "Because we need one soon." Ji-Ho studied the map for a long moment. The colony had been built in a valley surrounded by tall mountains. This gave them some natural protection. The Krivax would have to attack from above or come through the valley entrance. "We need to prepare for when the shields fail," Ji-Ho said finally. "Major Kim, start training anyone who can hold a weapon. Dr. Choi, we need to convert any equipment we can into defensive systems." "Sir, we're researchers, not fighters," Yoonji said. "I know," Ji-Ho replied, "but we're also humans. And humans don't surrender." Hanul and Yoonji exchanged glances but nodded. They understood what was at stake. "One more thing," Ji-Ho said. "I want to send another distress signal. Use the old Earth military channels. The Alliance might not be listening, but someone else might be." "The old channels?" Hanul asked, surprised. "Those haven't been used in decades." "Exactly," Ji-Ho said. "The Krivax won't be monitoring them." As they left to carry out his orders, Ji-Ho turned back to the window. The sky was growing dark as night fell over the colony. Lights began to come on in the buildings below, but fewer than before. They were conserving power. Ji-Ho thought of all the people down there looking to him for leadership, for hope. He had none to give them, but he would not let them die without a fight. 3 days later, the colonists prepared for battle. Security Officer Tae-Wan Lee moved through the western section of the colony. checking the makeshift barricades. Tae-Wan was young, only 26, but he took his job seriously. Before coming to Taralis IV, he had served in the Alliance security forces, which made him one of the few people in the colony with any combat training. "How's it looking?" asked a voice behind him. Tae-Wan turned to see Dr. Min Seo Kang standing there. Min Seo worked in the communications lab. She was small with short black hair and quick, intelligent eyes. "Not great," Tae-Wan admitted. "These barricades won't stop much." Min Seo looked at the barrier in front of them. It was made from overturned tables, parts of walls, and pieces of research equipment too big to move to safety. "Better than nothing," she said. "I've been helping Yoonji convert some of our scanning equipment into weapons." Tae-Wan raised an eyebrow. "Any luck?" "Some. The geological scanners use energy pulses to map underground formations. Yoonji figured out how to increase the power. They won't do much damage, but they might slow the Kryvax down." Tae-Wan nodded, impressed. The colonists were adapting quickly, finding ways to fight back with what they had. "What about communications?" Tae-Wan asked. "Any response to our distress signals?" Min Seo's face fell. "Nothing yet. I've been sending messages nonstop, but..." She shrugged. "Keep trying," Tae-Wan said. "You never know." They both looked up as they heard a rumble in the sky. Through a gap in the clouds, they could see flashes of light, the Kryvax ships firing at their shields again. "I should get back to my post," Min Seo said. Tae-Wan watched her go, then continued his inspection. As he walked, he saw how the colony had changed. Research buildings had become military posts. Laboratories were now makeshift hospitals. The large greenhouse where they grew food was being used as a shelter for children. These were not the changes he had expected when he took this job 2 years ago. Taralis IV was supposed to be a quiet post, a place to study and learn. Now it might be where they all died. When he reached the colony's main gate, Tae-Wan found Commander Park talking with a group of civilians who had been given weapons. "Remember, stay behind cover," Jiho was telling them. "Don't try to be heroes. Just slow them down." The civilians nodded, their faces showing a mix of fear and determination. Tae-Wan recognized some of them. Teachers, cooks, maintenance workers. Regular people forced to become soldiers. "Officer Lee," Jiho called. "Report." "Western sector is secure, sir," Tae-Wan said. "Or as secure as we can make it." "Good. Take these people and station them along the western wall. Make sure they know what to do." Tae-Wan nodded and led the group away. As they walked, one of the civilians, an older man who worked in the colony's kitchen, spoke up. "Do you think we have a chance?" he asked quietly. Tae-Wan thought about lying, but decided against it. "Not much of one," he said. "But we'll make the Kryvax pay for every step they take into our colony." The man nodded, his grip tightening on his weapon. That night, the shield began to fail. In the command center, Jiho watched as sections of the blue dome covering the colony flickered and disappeared. Yoonji had done her best, but the generator couldn't take any more. "Shields at 12%, Hanul reported. Sections 3 and 5 are completely down." Jiho looked at the tactical display. The Kryvax ships were moving, taking up new positions above the exposed sections of the colony. "They're preparing to land troops," Jiho said. "Should I sound the alarm?" Hanul asked. Jiho nodded. "Yes, and send a final message on the Alliance channels. Tell them..." He paused, thinking. "Tell them the Novan colony on Taralis IV stood its ground." Hanul's eyes showed sadness, but her voice was steady. "Yes, sir." As she moved to carry out his order, the door opened and Min Seo rushed in. Her face was flushed and she was breathing hard as if she had run all the way. "Commander," she called. "I've detected something on the old Earth channels." Jiho turned to her, surprised. "What is it?" "A signal, sir. Someone responded to our distress call." Min Seo's eyes were wide with excitement. "They say they're coming to help." For the first time in many days, Jiho felt a small spark of hope. But he quickly pushed it down. "Hope could be dangerous. Did they identify themselves?" he asked. Min Seo nodded. "Yes, sir. They said they're an Earth ship called..." She checked her notes. "The Thunderchild," Hanul frowned. "Thunderchild? I don't know any Alliance ship by that name." "That's because it's not an Alliance ship," Jiho said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "The Thunderchild is an old Earth warship, from before we joined the Alliance. I thought they were all decommissioned years ago." "So who's coming to help us?" Tae-Wan asked from his position by the door. Jiho looked out the window at the failing shield, at the enemy ships positioning themselves above the colony. "I don't know," he said. But whoever they are, I hope they hurry. By the morning of day 23, the colony's main shield had failed completely. Only small local shields protected the most important buildings. The Krivax had not waited long to attack. Taewon Lee crouched behind a fallen wall, his weapon held tight against his chest. His head hurt where a piece of metal had cut him during the first bombing. A bandage covered the wound, but blood had soaked through it. "They're coming," someone shouted from his right. Taewon looked up to see shapes moving through the smoke at the edge of the colony. The Krivax soldiers were tall and moved with a strange jerking motion. Their bodies were covered in dark armor that reflected the morning light. "Hold positions," Taewon called to the civilians hiding with him. "Wait until they're closer." He had 20 people with him, all volunteers. None of them had fought before last night. Now they were the last line of defense for the western sector of the colony. The Krivax moved forward slowly, their weapons raised. Taewon counted at least 30 of them in the first wave. More would be coming. "Ready," he said quietly. "Aim for the joints in their armor. That's where they're weakest." The colonists raised their weapons. Some hands shook, but all were determined. They had seen what the Krivax did to the outer buildings of the colony. There would be no mercy if they lost. "Now," Taewon shouted. The air filled with energy blasts as the colonists fired. The makeshift weapons that Dr. Choi had created made a high-pitched sound as they released their energy. The Krivax were caught by surprise, and 3 fell immediately. The others scattered, looking for cover. "Keep firing," Taewon ordered. "Don't let them regroup." For a few minutes, it seemed like they might hold the line. Then more Krivax appeared from the smoke, and more after that. There were too many. "Fall back," Taewon shouted. "To the second position." The colonists began to retreat, moving from one barricade to the next. They had prepared for this, setting up layers of defense. But Taewon knew they couldn't hold for long. His communicator buzzed. "Western Sector report," came Commander Park's voice. "Heavy resistance," Taewon replied, ducking as energy blasts flew over his head. "We're falling back to position 2. "Request support." "Negative," Jiho said. "Northern Sector is under heavier attack. Hold as long as you can." "Understood," Taewon said, trying to keep the disappointment from his voice. "Western Sector out." He looked at the faces of the people with him. They had heard the exchange. They knew no help was coming. "We can do this," Taewon said, trying to sound confident. "Remember, we're fighting for our homes." The colonists nodded, their faces grim but determined. They continued to fire at the advancing Krivax. Taewon thought of his family back on Earth, of the messages he had sent them before the attack. Would they ever know what happened here? Or would Taralis IV simply become another colony that disappeared at the edge of human space? In the command center, Jiho watched as red dots representing the Krivax troops moved deeper into the colony. Their progress was slow but steady. The defenders were putting up a good fight, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "Northern Sector has fallen back to the central plaza," Hanul reported. "Eastern Sector is still holding, but they're surrounded." Jiho nodded. He had expected this. The Krivax were professional soldiers with advanced weapons. It was a miracle the colonists had held them off for this long. "What about the message from the Thunder Child?" Jiho asked. "Any update?" Minseo looked up from her console. "They're still coming, sir. But I can't get a clear reading on their position. Something's interfering with our sensors." "The Krivax are jamming us," Yunji said from where she was working on a damaged control panel. "They don't want us to know what's happening outside our atmosphere." Jiho frowned. Even if the Thunder Child was real and not just some trick or false hope, they might arrive too late. The colony was falling. "Commander," Hanul said suddenly, "I'm getting reports of movement from the mountains to the south." Jiho turned to look at the display. The southern mountains had been quiet throughout the attack. The terrain was too rough for the Krivax to land there. "What kind of movement?" he asked. "Unclear," Hanul replied. "But it's not Krivax. The signatures are different." Jiho's mind raced. Could it be Alliance forces? Had someone received their distress call after all? But how would they have landed without being detected? "Put it on screen," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a view from one of the few remaining cameras on the southern perimeter. At first, Jiho saw nothing but rocks and the thin trees that grew in the mountains of Taralis IV. Then something moved between the trees. It wasn't human. It wasn't Krivax either. "What is that?" Yunji asked, coming to stand beside Jiho. The creature stepped fully into view. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its face had no nose, only two large dark eyes and a small mouth. It wore simple clothing made of a material Jiho didn't recognize. "It's a Terralan," Minseo said, her voice filled with wonder. "It has to be." The Terralans were the native sentient species of Terralis IV. The human researchers had made contact with them when the colony was first established, but the Terralans had kept their distance. They lived deep in the mountains and rarely came near the human settlement. "There are more of them," Hanul said, pointing at the screen. Indeed, more of the blue-skinned beings were emerging from the trees, dozens of them moving with a grace that made them seem to float over the rocky ground. "What do they want?" Yunji asked. "Why come now in the middle of an attack?" Before anyone could answer, the door to the command center opened and a security officer rushed in. "Sir," she said to Jiho, "the Terralans are at the south gate. They're asking to speak with you." Jiho exchanged surprised looks with Hanul. Then he nodded. "Bring their leader here." A few minutes later, the security officer returned with one of the blue-skinned beings. Up close, the Terralan was even more striking. Its skin seemed to contain tiny lights that moved beneath the surface like stars in a blue sky. The Terralan bowed deeply. "I am Elder Subin," it said in perfect, though strangely accented human language. "I speak for my people." Jiho bowed in return. "I am Commander Park. Thank you for coming, Elder Subin, but as you can see, this is a dangerous time." "The Krivaks, we know of the star demons," Subin interrupted. "We have watched them attack your home. We have seen your people fight with courage." "Then you understand why we can't talk right now," Jiho said. "We're in the middle of a battle." Subin's large eyes blinked slowly. "That is why we have come. To offer sanctuary." A shocked silence fell over the command center. "Sanctuary?" Hanul repeated. Subin nodded. "Our caverns extend deep beneath the mountains. The star demons cannot follow you there. Your people will be safe." Jiho could hardly believe what he was hearing. The Terralans, who had avoided human contact for years, were now offering to save them. "Why would you help us?" he asked. "Because you fight," Subin said simply. "Because you do not surrender. My people value such strength." Jiho looked at the tactical display. The red dots of the Krivak's forces were getting closer to the command center. They didn't have much time. "How many of our people can you shelter?" he asked. "All who wish to come," Subin replied. "Our caverns are vast." Jiho made his decision. "Major Kim, begin evacuation procedures. Priority to children and the wounded. Dr. Choi, gather all the research data you can carry. Officer Lee can coordinate the defense while we evacuate." Everyone moved to carry out his orders, their faces showing new hope. "Thank you, Elder Subin," Jiho said. "We won't forget this." The Terralan's small mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "It is good to help those who help themselves, Commander Park. My people have watched yours for many seasons. We have seen how you study our world with respect. Now we will help you protect it." As night fell on day 23, the evacuation began. Small groups of colonists moved quietly through the southern sector of the colony, guided by the Terralans to hidden entrances in the mountainside. Taiwan and his defenders had fallen back to the central plaza. They were tired and low on ammunition, but they fought on, buying time for the others to escape. In the communications lab, Minseo worked alone, monitoring all frequencies. Most of the equipment had been damaged in the fighting, but she had managed to keep one receiver working. "Come on," she whispered to herself. "Where are you, Thunderchild?" As if in answer to her question, a new signal appeared on her screen. It was using the old Earth military channel, just like before. "Attention, Terralis Colony." A voice crackled through the static. "This is Captain Junho Ryu of the Earth warship Thunderchild. Hold your positions. Help is coming." Minseo's heart leaped. She reached for her communicator. "Commander Park." "They're here. The Thunderchild is coming." In the mountain caverns where he was helping organize the refugees, Jiho received Minseo's message. He looked at Hanul, who stood beside him. "Could it be true?" Hanul asked. "Could help really be coming?" "I don't know," Jiho admitted. "But even if it is, they're just one ship against the Krivak's fleet." Elder Subin, who had been listening, spoke up. "One storm cloud can change the sky, Commander. One stone can start an avalanche." Jiho wasn't sure he understood the Terralan saying, but he appreciated the sentiment. "Let's hope you're right, Elder. We could use an avalanche right now." The Thunderchild did not arrive quietly. It tore into normal space with a flash of energy that lit up the night sky above Taralis 4. Even deep in the Taralan caverns, the colonists felt a strange pressure in their ears as space itself seemed to shudder. Mincio was still in the communications lab when it happened. Her equipment sparked and went dark for a moment before coming back to life. On her screen, new signals appeared, powerful and clear, cutting through the Kryvax jamming like it wasn't even there. "This is Captain Junho Ryu of the Earth Warship Thunderchild to Kryvax forces," a firm voice broadcast on all frequencies. "You are attacking human civilians under my protection. You have 1 standard minute to cease hostilities and withdraw." Mincio's hand shook as she recorded the message. An Earth warship. Not an Alliance vessel with its rules and protocols, but a true warship from Earth's more aggressive past. She had heard stories about ships like the Thunderchild, but most people thought they were just legends. The main screen in the lab flickered to life, showing a view of space above Taralis 4. Mincio gasped. The Thunderchild was massive, at least 3 times the size of any Alliance ship she had ever seen. Its hull was dark and scarred from old battles, and it bristled with weapon systems that the Alliance had long since banned as too aggressive. "Mincio, do you see this?" Jiho's voice came through her communicator. "Yes, Commander," she replied. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The Kryvax can hear them too. Get to the caverns now," Jiho ordered. "It's not safe in the colony." Mincio hesitated. She wanted to stay, to see what happened next. But another explosion rocked the building, reminding her of the danger. "On my way," she said, gathering her portable equipment. As she ran through the damaged corridors of the colony, Mincio kept her communicator open. She could hear the exchange between the Thunderchild and the Kryvax commander. "We do not recognize your authority," the Kryvax leader said, his harsh voice filled with contempt. "This world is claimed for the Dominion. Leave now or be destroyed with the humans." There was a pause, then Captain Junho's calm reply. "Very well." Thunderchild engaging. Mincio reached the entrance to the Taralan caverns just as the night sky lit up with fire. She looked back and saw energy beams cutting through the darkness, connecting the distant dots of light that were ships in orbit. The Thunderchild was fighting. Inside the caverns, hundreds of colonists huddled in groups, their faces lit by the soft blue glow that came from the cavern walls. The light seemed to come from the rock itself, a natural feature of Taralis 4 that the Taralans had adapted to their needs. Mincio found Jiho and Hanul near the entrance, watching the sky through a narrow opening in the rock. "What's happening?" Mincio asked. "The Thunderchild is engaging the Kryvax fleet," Hanul said, her voice filled with awe. "And it's winning." Mincio squeezed in beside them to look. The night was filled with explosions as Kryvax ships broke apart under the Thunderchild's assault. The Earth warship moved with incredible speed for its size, its point defense systems intercepting Kryvax missiles while its main guns tore through enemy ships. "How is this possible?" Mincio whispered. "It's just one ship." "Not just any ship," Jiho said. "The Thunderchild class was built during Earth's isolation period, before we joined the Alliance. They were designed to fight against multiple enemies at once. I thought all those ships were decommissioned when Earth signed the Alliance treaties," Hanil said. Jiho's face was grim in the blue light. "Officially, yes, but there were always rumors that Earth kept some in reserve, just in case." "In case of what?" Mincio asked. "In case the Alliance couldn't or wouldn't protect Earth's interests," Jiho replied. "It seems those rumors were true." Elder Subin approached them, moving with the fluid grace of all Terralans. "The storm from beyond has arrived," the Elder said, "just as our stories foretold." Jiho looked at the Terralan with surprise. "Your stories spoke of this?" Subin's large eyes reflected the flashes of battle from the sky. "Our ancestors tell of star travelers who came before, fierce warriors who brought both destruction and salvation. They call them the storm from beyond." Mincio was about to ask more about these stories when her communicator crackled to life. "Commander Park, this is Captain Junho Ryu," came the now familiar voice. "Please respond if you can hear me." Jiho took the communicator. "This is Commander Park. We hear you, Captain Ryu, and we can see your handiwork." There was a short laugh from the other end. "Good. The Kryvax fleet is scattering, but they've already landed troops in your colony. What's your situation?" "We've evacuated most of our people to underground caverns," Jiho reported. "The native Terralans are sheltering us, But we still have defenders in the colony buying time for the evacuation. Understood, Captain Junho said. I'm sending down shuttles with marine units to help secure the colony. They'll land in 30 minutes. Can your people hold that long? Jiho looked at Hanul, who nodded. We'll hold, Captain. Good, Thunderchild out. As the communication ended, Hanul touched Jiho's arm. Our people in the colony need to know help is coming. It will give them strength to keep fighting. I'll go, Taewon said, stepping forward from the shadows where he had been listening. His face was dirty, and his uniform torn, but his eyes were clear and determined. It's too dangerous, Jiho began. With respect, sir, I know the safe paths through the colony, Taewon said. I can move faster alone, Jiho hesitated, then nodded. Go, tell them to hold for 30 more minutes. Help is coming. Taewon gave a quick salute, then disappeared into the darkness, heading back toward the colony. Minseo watched him go, worry tightening her chest. Will he make it? If anyone can, it's Taewon, Hanul said. He knows what he's doing, Jiho turned to Elder Subin. We need to prepare. Once the Thunderchild's Marines secure the colony, we'll need to move our people back. The Taralan nodded. We will help. Some of my people know your ways of fighting. They will go with your officer. Jiho looked surprised. You would fight alongside us? This is our world too, Commander Park, Subin said simply. The star demons threaten us all. As the Terralans prepared to leave, Minseo approached Elder Subin. Your stories, she said. The ones about the storm from beyond. Can you tell me more? Subin's skin shimmered with moving lights as the Elder considered her request. The stories tell of beings who came from the stars long ago when my people were young. They fought a great battle above our world against enemies who would have destroyed all life here. And these beings, Minseo asked, were they human? The stories do not say, Subin replied, but they describe warriors of great courage and strength, who fought with machines of fire and light. The Elder's large eyes turned toward the cavern entrance, where flashes of battle still lit the night sky, much like what we see now. Minseo thought about this. Could humans have visited Taralis IV in the distant past? It seemed unlikely. Human space exploration had only reached this far in the last century, unless her thoughts were interrupted by Hanul. Minseo, the captain wants to speak with you. She needs information about our communication systems. Minseo hurried to where Jiho stood with the communicator. A small holographic image of Captain Junho Ryu hovered above it. The captain was a woman with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her face was stern, with lines that spoke of years of command. Dr. Kang, the captain said when Minseo approached, I understand you're in charge of communications for the colony. Yes, Captain, Minseo replied, feeling suddenly nervous under that steady gaze. I need to know if you can re-establish your main communication array. My people can provide parts and protection, but we need a working link to coordinate the defense. Minseo thought quickly. The main array was destroyed in the first attack, but we have backup systems. With the right parts, I could get them working. Good. My shuttle will land near what's left of your communication tower. Meet us there in 30 minutes. The hologram disappeared before Minseo could reply. She looked at Jiho, who gave her a small smile. Looks like you're going back to work, Dr. Kang. Minseo felt a mix of fear and excitement. I'll need help and equipment. Take whatever you need, Jiho said. This could be our chance to turn the tide. As Minseo gathered supplies, she heard a commotion at the cavern entrance. Taewon had returned, and he was not alone. With him were several colonial defenders wounded but alive. The Kryvax are falling back, Taewon reported, his face bright with excitement despite his exhaustion. They're being hammered from orbit. The Thunderchild is picking off their landing ships one by one. A cheer went up from the gathered colonists. For the first time in days, they had hope. What about our people still in the colony? Hanul asked. Holding strong now that they know help is coming, Taewon said. And the Terralans, he broke off, looking around in wonder. They're amazing fighters. They move so fast the Kryvax can barely track them. Jiho nodded. Good. Dr. Kang is heading out to repair the communication array with help from the Thunderchild's crew. I need you to provide security. Taewon straightened despite his obvious exhaustion. Yes, sir. Minseo looked around at the faces of her colleagues, tired, dirty, but filled with new determination. Then she looked up at the cavern entrance where the flashes of battle were becoming less frequent. Min Seo, Taewan, and 4 Terralan warriors made their way through the damaged colony. The fighting had moved to the northern sections, where the last of the Kryvax ground forces were being pushed back. The night air was filled with the smell of burned metal and the distant sound of weapons fire. "Stay low," Taewan whispered as they approached the remains of the communication tower. The once tall structure now lay broken across the central square of the colony, its metal skeleton twisted and dark. Min Seo clutched her bag of tools and spare parts. Her heart beat fast in her chest, but her mind was clear. She knew what needed to be done. "The backup systems are in the underground level," she told Taewan. "If they survive the collapse, I might be able to get them working." Taewan nodded. "We'll cover you. The Thunderchild's shuttle should be here soon." As if summoned by his words, a bright light appeared in the sky above them. It grew larger quickly, accompanied by a deep rumbling sound. Min Seo looked up to see a shuttle descending toward the square. It was larger than Alliance shuttles, with a blocky, aggressive design that matched the Thunderchild itself. "That's not an Alliance craft," Taewan said, his voice filled with wonder. "No," Min Seo agreed. "It's something older." The shuttle touched down with surprising gentleness for its size. A ramp extended from its side and armored figures emerged. Their suits were dark with red markings, and they moved with the confident precision of experienced soldiers. Leading them was a woman whose armor bore additional markings on the shoulders. She removed her helmet as she approached, revealing a stern face framed by gray-streaked black hair, pulled back in a tight bun. "Dr. Kang," she called. Min Seo stepped forward. "Yes, Captain Ryu?" The woman nodded. "Call me Junho. We don't stand on ceremony in the Shadow Fleet." She looked around at the destruction, her face showing no reaction. "What do you need to get communications back online?" Min Seo explained the situation quickly. Junho listened, then turned to her soldiers. "Squad 1, secure the perimeter. Squad 2, help Dr. Kang access the underground level. Bring the equipment cases." The soldiers moved to obey without question. 4 of them approached Min Seo, carrying large metal boxes. "Advanced communication equipment," Junho explained. "Compatible with most human systems. It should help." Min Seo was impressed. The equipment looked more advanced than anything the colony had. "Thank you, Captain." "Don't thank me yet," Junho said. "We still have a planet to secure." She nodded to the Terralans who stood nearby, watching with their large eyes. "These are the natives?" "Yes," Taewan said. "They've been helping us fight the Kryvax." Junho studied them for a moment, then gave a small bow. "Thank you for aiding my people." The Terralans returned the bow, their movements graceful and flowing. "Let's get to work," Junho said, turning back to Min Seo. "My ship can only keep the Kryvax fleet scattered for so long." With the help of Junho's soldiers, they cleared a path to the underground entrance of the communication tower. The door had been damaged in the collapse, but one of the soldiers used a cutting tool to open it. Inside, emergency lights cast a dim red glow over the narrow stairs leading down. "Be careful," Min Seo warned. "The structure is unstable." They descended slowly, testing each step. At the bottom, they found the main communication room relatively intact. Banks of equipment lined the walls, though many screens were dark or damaged. Min Seo went to the central console and pressed the power switch. Nothing happened. "Main power is out," she said. "We'll need to connect to the backup generators." One of Junho's soldiers opened a case and removed what looked like a small metallic sphere. "This is a portable power unit," the soldier explained. "It can run your systems for about 12 hours. Min Seo was impressed again. The technology was beyond what the colony had access to. She watched as the soldier connected the sphere to the main power coupling. The sphere hummed softly, then began to glow with a blue light. Around the room, screens flickered to life. "It works," Min Seo exclaimed. She moved quickly to the main console, her fingers flying over the controls. "I need to bypass the damaged sections and reroute through the backup antennas." As Min Seo worked, Junho stood nearby, watching. After a few minutes, the captain asked, "How did you end up on Terralis 4, Dr. Kang?" Min Seo glanced up, surprised by the personal question. "I was studying unusual communication patterns in crystalline formations. The crystals here have unique properties that can amplify and focus signals." Junho nodded. "That's why the Kryvax want this planet. Those crystals have military applications." Min Seo's hands paused over the controls. "We were studying them for scientific purposes, to improve communication across human space." "I know," Junho said. Her voice softened slightly. But others see weapons where you see tools. Minseo considered this as she continued working. She had never thought of her research as potentially dangerous. But of course, many scientific discoveries could be used for both good and harm. It was the intent that mattered. After 20 minutes of work, Minseo sat back. I think that's got it. We should be able to establish a colony-wide communication network now. Good, Junho said. She touched a control on her armor, and a small holographic display appeared above her wrist. Thunderchild, this is Captain Ryu. We've re-established ground communications. Status report, a voice replied from the hologram. Krivak's fleet is in full retreat, Captain. We've destroyed 12 of their ships and damaged at least 8 more. The rest have jumped to FTL. Minseo felt a surge of relief and joy. The Krivaks were running away. What about ground forces? Junho asked. Our Marines have secured the northern and eastern sectors of the colony. The remaining Krivaks troops are surrounded in the western sector. They're fighting hard, but they can't last long without support from orbit. Keep the pressure on, Junho ordered. I want this planet secure by dawn. Yes, Captain. The hologram disappeared and Junho turned to Minseo. Now let's contact your commander and coordinate with your people. Minseo nodded and activated the communication system. Commander Park, this is Dr. Kang. Do you read me? After a moment of static, Jiho's voice came through clearly. I read you, Dr. Kang. What's your status? Communication systems are back online, Minseo reported. I'm here with Captain Ryu. The Krivak's fleet is retreating and the Thunderchild's Marines are securing the colony. Excellent work, Jiho said, the relief evident in his voice. We'll begin moving people back to the secured areas. Major Kim is coordinating with the Terralan elders. Junho stepped forward. Commander Park, this is Captain Ryu. I suggest you keep your civilians in the caverns until we've fully secured the colony. My people will clear each sector before allowing civilians to return. Agreed, Captain, Jiho replied. And thank you. We wouldn't have survived without your help. That's what we do, Junho said simply. Thunderchild protects human interests, especially when others won't or can't. Minseo heard something in the captain's voice. Pride, but also a hint of bitterness. She wondered what had driven Junho to serve on a Shadow Fleet ship instead of with the Alliance. As dawn broke over Terralus 4, Minseo stood with Taewan on a hill overlooking the colony. Parts of it were still smoking from the battle, but already people were moving through the streets, beginning the work of rebuilding. Above them, visible even in the morning light, hung the massive shape of the Thunderchild. Now that Minseo could see it clearly, she was even more impressed. The warship was unlike any Alliance vessel she had ever seen. Its hull was marked with old battle scars and strange symbols that she didn't recognize. It's beautiful in a scary way, Taewan said, following her gaze. Minseo nodded. I never thought I'd be happy to see a warship. Me neither, Taewan admitted. But I am. They watched as shuttles moved between the Thunderchild and the colony, bringing supplies and more Marines to help with the cleanup. The last of the Krivak's forces had surrendered at dawn, outmatched by the combined strength of the Earth Marines and the surprisingly effective Terralan warriors. Do you think they'll stay? Minseo asked. The Thunderchild, I mean. Taewan shook his head. Captain Ryu told Commander Park they can only remain for a few days. They're not supposed to exist, remember? The Alliance doesn't know about the Shadow Fleet. Minseo frowned. But then who protects us after they leave? The Krivaks might come back. The captain promised to send a message to Alliance Command, Taewan said. They'll send ships now that they know about the attack. And the Terralans have offered to help us build better defenses. Minseo nodded, but she still felt uneasy. The Alliance had failed to protect them once. Would they do better next time? Her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps behind them. They turned to see Captain Junho approaching, accompanied by Commander Park and Elder Subin. Dr. Kang, Officer Lee. Jiho greeted them. The captain wanted to see the extent of the damage from here. Junho stood beside them, looking out over the colony. Her face showed no emotion, but Minseo thought she saw a flicker of satisfaction in the captain's eyes. Your people fought well, Junho said. Many colonies would have surrendered when the shields failed. We're not just any colony, Jiho replied. We may be researchers, but we're still human. Junho smiled slightly at that. Yes, you are. That's why we came. Elder Subin moved forward, the morning light making the Terralin's blue skin shimmer. 3 days after the Thunderchild's arrival, Mincio stood in the observation deck of the massive warship, looking down at Teralis 4 below. The colony looked small from space, a cluster of buildings nestled between mountains. From up here, the damage was barely visible. Beautiful, isn't it? Mincio turned to see Captain Junho enter the observation deck. The captain had changed from her battle armor to a simple dark uniform with red piping. Even in these more casual clothes, she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to command. Yes, it is, Mincio agreed, looking back at the planet. I've lived there for 2 years, but I've never seen it from space before. Junho came to stand beside her. Perspective changes everything. From up here, the colony seems so small, so vulnerable. It is vulnerable, Mincio said quietly. We all saw that when the Krivax attacked. Junho nodded. That's why ships like the Thunderchild exist, to protect what's vulnerable. Mincio had spent the past day touring the warship, escorted by one of Junho's officers. She had seen the engine rooms, the weapon systems, the communication array, all far more advanced than anything the Alliance officially used. Why did you invite me here? Mincio asked. It was a question she had been wanting to ask since she boarded the shuttle. Junho smiled slightly. Direct, I like that. She was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. I invited you because you understand communication, and because we need people like you, people like me, people who see the bigger picture, Junho explained. The Alliance is good for humanity in many ways. It brought peace, trade, cultural exchange, but it also made us complacent. We forgot that not everyone in the galaxy shares our values. Mincio thought about the Krivax, about how quickly they had attacked, how mercilessly they had fought. The Alliance didn't come when we called for help. They couldn't, Junho said. Their nearest fleet was too far away, and they're bound by protocols and procedures. By the time they organized a response, your colony would have been gone. But you came, Mincio said. Junho nodded. We came because Earth never completely trusted that the Alliance would protect all our interests. So we kept a few ships like the Thunderchild. We patrol the edges of human space, watching for threats. Does the Alliance know about you? Some suspect. Most don't. Or if they do, they choose not to look too closely. Junho turned to face Mincio directly. But soon they'll be here, asking questions about us, about how your colony survived the Krivax attack. Mincio understood what wasn't being said. You want me to help keep your secret? I want you to tell the truth as you see fit, Junho corrected. But I also want you to consider what would happen if ships like the Thunderchild were forced to stop their patrols. How many colonies like yours might fall because help couldn't reach them in time? Mincio had already been thinking about this. The Thunderchild had saved them when no one else could. But its existence violated alliance treaties that Earth had signed. It was a complicated situation with no easy answers. Before Mincio could respond, the ship's communication system activated. Captain to the bridge, a voice announced. Alliance vessels detected entering the system. Junho's face showed no surprise. Earlier than expected. Come with me, Dr. Kang. You should see this. The bridge of the Thunderchild was smaller than Mincio had expected, but efficiently designed. Screens showed views of space around the ship, and officers worked at various stations with quiet professionalism. Report, Junho said as she entered. A young officer looked up from her console. 3 Alliance vessels, Captain. 2 cruisers and a diplomatic ship. They're hailing us. Put them through, Junho ordered, straightening her uniform. One of the large screens flickered, then showed the image of a stern-looking man in an Alliance uniform. His eyes widened slightly when he saw Junho. This is Admiral Quan of the Alliance vessel Harmony, he said. Identify yourself and your ship. Junho stood tall. Captain Junho Ryu of the Earth vessel Thunderchild. We're here at the request of the Teralis 4 colony. Thunderchild? Admiral Quan repeated, his brow furrowing. I'm not familiar with that designation. What fleet are you with, Captain? We operate independently, Admiral, Junho replied smoothly. Earth Special Operations. This was clearly news to the Admiral. He glanced off-screen, presumably to an aide, then back at Junho. I wasn't aware Earth maintained independent military vessels outside of Alliance Command. There's a lot you're not aware of, Admiral, Junho said, her voice pleasant but firm. We can discuss jurisdictional matters later. The priority now should be the colony and the Krivax threat. Admiral Kwan looked like he wanted to argue but nodded instead. Agreed. We'll send teams to the surface immediately. I'd like to meet with the colony leadership and... With you, Captain. Of course. Commander Park is organizing a briefing in the colony's main hall. We'll see you there in 2 hours. The Admiral gave a stiff nod and the screen went dark. One of Junho's officers spoke up. He didn't look happy, Captain. No, he didn't, Junho agreed. She turned to Minseo. And that's why you're here. The Alliance will want a full report from the colonists. What you say will matter. Minseo felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. What will happen to the Thunderchild? To you and your crew? Junho's face showed no concern. We've dealt with Alliance questions before. We'll continue our mission regardless of their objections. Earth protects its own. 2 hours later, Minseo sat in the colony's main hall alongside Jiho, Hanyul, and the other colony leaders. The hall had been damaged during the attack, but hasty repairs had made it usable again. Taewon stood by the door with other security officers, watching as Alliance officials filed in. Admiral Kwan entered last, followed by several aides. His eyes swept the room, taking in the colony leaders, the Terralan representatives, and finally Captain Junho, who stood to one side with 2 of her officers. Commander Park, the Admiral said, extending his hand to Jiho. I'm glad to see you and your people safe. We came as soon as we received your distress call. Thank you, Admiral, Jiho said, shaking the offered hand. Though I must point out that your arrival comes 7 days after our first distress call was sent. The Admiral had the grace to look uncomfortable. Yes, well, there were procedural delays. The nearest Alliance fleet was engaged elsewhere, and protocols must be followed. Fortunately, Hanyul said, not everyone is bound by the same protocols, or we wouldn't be here to greet you. Admiral Kwan's gaze shifted to Junho. Yes, about that. Captain Ryu, your presence here raises questions. Earth signed treaties limiting its military operations when it joined the Alliance. The Thunderchild appears to violate those agreements. Junho stepped forward. The Thunderchild operates under special provisions of those same treaties, Admiral. Provisions that allow Earth to maintain a limited defensive capability for rapid response to emergencies. I'm not familiar with these provisions, the Admiral said, his voice stiff. They're not widely publicized, Junho replied, for obvious reasons. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Minseo watched the exchange with growing concern. If the Alliance decided to take action against the Thunderchild and ships like it, who would protect colonies like theirs in the future? An unexpected voice broke the tension. Perhaps I may offer a perspective. Everyone turned to see Elder Subin step forward. The Terralan's blue skin shimmered in the light of the hall. With respect, this is an internal human matter, Admiral Kwan began. Is it? Subin asked. The attack on this colony happened on our world. The Krivaks threatened all life here, not just humans. We all have an interest in how safety is maintained. In this sector of space, the Admiral looked taken, aback but nodded for Subin to continue. My people have lived on Taralis for thousands of years, the Elder said. We have seen others come to our skies, some with peaceful intentions, others with conquest in their hearts. We have learned that safety comes not from rules or agreements, but from strength and the will to use it when necessary. Subin turned to look at Junho. The Thunderchild came when called. It fought to protect not just humans, but Terralans as well. In our eyes, that makes it and its captain friends of our world. A murmur ran through the room. The Terralans rarely involve themselves in human politics. Admiral Kwan cleared his throat. Your perspective is noted, Elder, but Alliance protocols exist for good reasons. Unchecked military power led to devastating conflicts in the past. Perhaps, Jiho said, standing, there is a middle path. The Thunderchild proved that a rapid response force is needed for colonies as remote as ours. Maybe the Alliance could establish something similar, but under proper oversight. The Admiral considered this. That would require discussion at the highest levels of Alliance leadership. Until those discussions bear fruit, Junho said, ships like mine will continue to patrol the edges of human space, not as a challenge to Alliance authority, but as a complement to it. Admiral Kwan looked like he wanted to argue, but seemed to realize this wasn't the time or place. We have much to discuss, but first I need a complete report on the Krivaks attack and your response. Dr. Kang can provide that, Jiho said, gesturing to Minseo. She was our communications officer during the attack, and worked directly with Captain Ryu,